What is up, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to Party on Broad. Today, we're taking a break from covering the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're talking some Sixers basketball, baby. Joining us, he is Ryan Reese. Go give him a shout out on X at Philly Sports PSA. What's up, Ryan?
Not much, man. Ready to talk some off-season targets and rebuilding this Sixers team.
It's going to be fun, man. Also joining us, of course, Rob Lange at Philly_Manis. What's up, Rob?
Hey, man, I'm excited for this offseason. You know, it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but we've been talking about this offseason being the offseason for 12 months now. So let's start rolling right into it here tonight. Glad to be talking with you guys about it.
As always. And we've got a special guest tonight. You probably already follow him on X. One of the best Sixers Twitter X follows there is, period. Check out all of his amazing work at Fox Sports The Gambler. Check out Pick Swap Media. Check out Sixers Digest. What don't you do, Sean? What's going on, man?
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. And as much as we kind of talked ourselves into this Sixers run this year, did not happen. This is the offseason, as Rob mentioned, that we got a blank canvas in front of us, and it's time for Daryl Morey to get to painting. So excited to dive into some of these.
Man, that's a good way to get this party started. Matt's saying, if Sean is live, I am there no matter what. That's true, too. I always watch the shows when you join Mark on Saturdays at 11, man. The best, man. I love the weekend shows. They're amazing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Guys, if you're watching us live, please be sure to comment. Please be sure to let us know your thoughts on the Sixers offseason. I'm sure we'll have some disagreements, as we always do. Before we get started, make sure you go check out Trending in the AM with Phil Stifle, 8 a.m. Just such a fun show, you know, taking your opinions, interacting with the fans, Trending in the AM, man. I'm sure they'll be talking more Sixers basketball. And Sean was just, I think, a guest on
last week.
Talking Sixers versus Knicks. Andrew says, boys are dead to me, just like the process. I get it, man. I get it.
One more year, Andrew. One more year. Settle in, baby.
Yep. All right. Let's roll on to our first question of the night. Sean, lead us off. The biggest reason the Sixers lost to the Knicks, fill in the blank.
So I'm going to kind of cheat here and take this in two parts. But number one, to put it cut and dry, I'm going to say rebounding. Number two, kind of directly tied to this, is over-reliance on Joel Embiid. That I think we saw the kind of just continued issue with the Sixers team is they go as Joel goes a little bit too far. I understand the star is always going to be the extent there, but it felt like it took Joel kind of carrying them, and he wasn't capable of doing that on an every game basis. It was not the 100% version of Joel, which obviously is relevant in this conversation. But the also fact of the matter is we may never get that 100% version of Joel, so you have to be prepared for that. So I do think when looking ahead, that finding other ways to win ball games is very important for this franchise. And then the rebounding battle, directly tied to this Joel Embiid conversation, is as much as I love Joel, he's not an overly excellent rebounder, especially for his size. And I do think when constructing this roster that it is pretty essential to find a guy to put next to him that is a plus rebounder for a lot of variations moving forward.
Yeah, man, that was the storyline. When Embiid was on the court, the Sixers were dynamic. When off the court, they couldn't get a rebound. The offense just went down the toilet. Same old Sixers, man. What about you, Rob?
Players 3 through 7. And I'm going to kind of say it in that sense, because if you were to tell me before the series that Maxey and Embiid were putting up over 30 almost every single game of the series, I would have told you the Sixers would have won 5 or 6, because I would have expected, you know, guys like Kelly Oubre not to go quiet, you know, for stretches or even games in this series. I would have expected Buddy Hield to have more play like he did in Game 6 earlier in the series. You know, Nico Batum, he is what he is, but you didn't expect him to go over in a couple of those games early on. Their supporting cast, who had been the best that Embiid has had all season long, in my opinion, really came up short. And, you know, Paul Reed, listen, I love the young kid. I do. But he looked lost out there. It never came for him in this series. And credit the Knicks for that. Credit the bodies they threw at him. Smart defenders and things like that. But look, if Embiid and Maxey are going to average 30 points a game in a series, you better have guys that can score between 15 and 18 points. You know, we're not even going to mention the name of the guy who's now going to be gone, but the friendly ghost over there, who I mean, listen, I defended that guy for years, but to have 2 shots and a decisive game 6 is just it's incredulous. And it's very, very disappointing that there wasn't another guy or two that could have stepped up. Games 1 and 2 were there for the wins. They were there for the wins, and they just couldn't get another person. So I'm going to go with the support. I know it's it's like Beauty and the Beast. It's the story as old as time, right? But the supporting staff did not show up for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Ryan.
Yeah, listen, you guys you're hitting everything that I really wanted to say, but to kind of add to what Rob was doing is the inconsistency of players 3 through, whatever. It seemed like, maybe one of them would have a halfway decent game and then you wouldn't see anything from anybody else. And the next game, it was this guy's turn to be the only one that was helpful and everybody else just went away. And because of that, and because of this whole entire season, and as Sean said, the over-reliance on Embiid, maybe if they, I don't know, took some of the load off of him throughout the season, not just with the load management, but just with the overall, just having him have to be the guy every single time he's out on the floor. Maybe if they didn't do that the entire season, maybe by the playoff time, he might not be always so banged up. And maybe we might actually get a fully healthy Embiid, which would be a very scary thing to go with Tyrese and whomever they're going to be adding this offseason. So I think that is what ultimately led to their demise. And I think it's something that it can easily fix this year. And I think that is going to pay dividends come, future years.
You guys already know my answer to this question. And I'm surprised no one really said it, but Rob kind of already alluded to it. But it's this. more specifically, the lack of hustle, the lack of floor spacing from Tobias Harris is a guy who never dives for loose balls, never battles for offensive boards. He never looks for contact in a big moment. One of the biggest issues for some time now has been the Sixers are too soft. Tobias is the poster child for that. 435 games across the regular season and playoffs. Tobias Harris drew 0 charges as a Sixer, not a single one. As we all know, for reference purposes, Kyle Lowry drew 9 in 23 regular season games in his short time here. Tobias is the definition of a guy that delivers the most against the worst defense in the league and gives you nothing against the best. He never steps up. In 23 games, Harris played during Embiid's absence, averaged 16 points, 7 boards in 34 minutes, negative 4.7 plus minus. 11 of those games, he failed to break 20 points. And 4, he didn't even score in double digits while nearly playing 30 minutes each time. The icing on the cake against the Knicks was when he dropped 9.4 points in 37.4 minutes per outing. Thank God Tobias is gone. And hopefully a shot-making, playmaking wing is on the top of the list when it comes to the Sixers' priorities this summer. Tobias Harris stinks, man. I'm just so happy he's gone.
Yeah, and to piggyback on top of that is I think the Tobias Harris conversation shifted this year to, for the most part, throughout his tenure in Philadelphia, it was that he could not live up to the contract that was signed, that he just was not capable of being the level of talent that dictated. This season, he was straight up bad. That this was the worst stretch of basketball we've seen from him. And even if this was going a guy on a lesser contract, on a mid-tier deal or a minimum type deal, we still would have been critical of Tobias Harris. And even like we saw the fit just did not work. The better that Joel got, particularly in the mid-range and from the post areas, the less sense that Tobias Harris made sense. Shot the fewest three-point attempts since the 2016 season this year, which is absurd from him. So yeah, I think it's underrated how much that soaking up $40 million and 28% of the salary cap, having that tied to Tobias Harris, that just completely handcuffed this team from a roster construction standpoint. And finally, that is off the books.
And kudos to him for game 5. He had a fairly efficient game.
19 points. Yeah.
but that was 19 points. You know, it's something when your head coach is like praising you. Oh, did you see that rebound he grabbed the other night?
Yeah.
That one rebound, like it's the standard for Tobias Harris.
Little big league.
That 19 points should have been what he was averaging in the series.
Right.
I mean, when all the attention is on the other two guys and you're Tobias Harris, how you're not averaging 19 points a game in that series is beyond me.
Yeah. Anthony chimes in, says trade for Jimmy Butler.
Would have been nice to.
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. I 100% agree. Ryan says Big Al, who also says we need a competent big man. We're going to get into that as well. Let's roll on to number 2. Ryan, lead us off. What's the biggest need for the Sixers this offseason?
The biggest need, honestly, and I think Al actually says it right there. I think we need some help for Joel. I mean, think about how well Joel did when we had Andre Drummond, and for that brief period of time, he seemed to be fresher out there. He seemed to be more efficient. You know, again, he got the proper rest because, listen, no offense to Paul Reed, no offense to whoever, you know, but when they go out there, nothing's really happening. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to be negative minutes, and it's just we pray that, you know, we give him as much rest as possible before he gets back out there. You know, we need somebody that can actually eat up minutes at the center position, give him proper rest, give him so it's not a horrible thing to give him some load management throughout the season so he gets fresh, he stays fresh, and he stays healthy for the playoffs. I mean, ultimately at this point, I almost want to just, you know, hide him for the regular season. Like, do you think, honestly, do you think Tyrese Maxey and a bunch of whoever could just squeak into the playoffs? Sure. Then let's throw Embiid in there and see what happens. Like, we need to give this man a big man help.
So I just dove into the NBA draft this weekend, and one of the guys that I've been very clearly against, I don't know your thoughts, Sean, is Zach Edey. And my thought process is this. I agree. His feet are not quick enough for the NBA. However, like, if you throw in just an offensive big man that can just survive for like 10 to 15 minutes and just make sure that Sixers offense doesn't just die, that's a win, right? Any thoughts?
I don't listen. I watched a lot of Zach Edey this year. And as you know, as good as that team was, Zach Edey in the NBA gets eaten alive, I feel like. I got to tell you, he is so slow. So slow. It's unbelievable that there were just times that it was just a matter of how good that team was. I don't know, man.
Do you consider him for pick number 41?
Yeah.
Yes. Second round. Yeah. I'm just saying, don't force that pick early.
And then, you know what I want to have happen after he comes in? I want you to clip what just happened down below. When Zach Edey comes in and is just dominant.
When he's Boban, you go ahead. All right, have fun.
You all love Boban. You don't
love Boban, but I don't love Boban. Wait. I don't love Boban because of his skill set. No one has ever been guilty of saying that.
Good actor.
Hey, listen. He was very efficient for the 3 minutes he got every game. Okay.
Hey, he had a couple threes, baby.
Yeah.
Exactly.
More than Ben Simmons.
I will say my mind has changed on Zach Edey this year. Heading into this year, I thought there was zero place in the NBA for him. He has improved his lateral quickness slightly. He's still going to be among the slowest players in the NBA, but he plays his wingspan very well. I mean, I think his peak is a backup center. There's no doubt about it. But in the context of this conversation, where my mind has changed is part of my push for Paul Reed is I thought it made more sense to play a different defensive style with a guy like that, where he can switch out on guards, switch 1 through 5, all these things. Now I'm seeing how much the offense just straight up dies without Joel, that maybe it does make sense to have an offensive oriented big man. And I don't know if Zach Edey's that guy. I think there's better options for sure. But I will say, I think there's probably a place in the NBA with him. And I did not think that going into the season.
I'm so glad you said, because that's the same thing.
Those
are guys I stay away from. Those are not my kind of prospects. But the more I thought about it, the more like if this dude can just put the ball in the basket literally for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's worth it alone. It's everything we've
gosh.
seen the Sixers struggle with. Rob, what are your thoughts?
You mean
The biggest need for the Sixers?
Okay. Listen, I'm going to let you guys handle all the positions because I think that you guys are going to do a good. I think we could all say the same positions they need. Me, it's more of a mentality, and this team needs someone who knows how to win in the playoffs in those final minutes. Because for all the accolades we can give Joel Embiid and we can give Tyrese Maxey and we can give some of these other guys, they do not know how to win. They have been just absolutely, held down by this idea of getting out of the second round. And I'm telling you, when you look back to game 2, the pressure got to this squad. The pressure got to this squad at the end. That can never happen. And to me, you need guys. Now, you can't just have a guy who's won but can't play anymore. There's got to be some talent there with that. I totally understand that. But you need at least one or two guys that could come in and say, hey, when I've won a championship, this is what we needed to do as a team to win that championship. And then go out and be able to show it on the court. Like Kyle Lowry was probably a vocal leader, but you saw at the end there, he just had nothing left. You know what I mean? And that's fine. It's totally understandable. But you need some guys in this locker room. It cannot just be a bunch of young players hoping to win. There's got to be a couple guys who have won titles, but can still play 25, 30 minutes a night for you at a pretty consistent level. And when they start looking around trying to piece this roster together, I think that has to play into it.
Andrew says, why bring in Lowry? I get he's a Philly guy, but he's over the hill. Andrew says,
Andrew was upset.
This Sixers team needs to go to the Wizard and get some heart. Daryl Morey on the Buddy Hield acquisition. I think the fit was less good than I thought. We'll get into that in a little while. We'll get into that in a little bit. And then we need Zach Edey to be the goon. I was at Temple and the great John Chaney said in the goons, but John Chaney's the man. Sean, what's the biggest need for the Sixers?
It's real deal 3-and-D wings, guys that are legitimate perimeter defenders. That you got Tyrese Maxey, you got Joel Embiid, pretty much all the big ticket guys they want to bring in. I want to be that type of like 6'6" to 6'9" switchable athletic wings.
Yes.
That we've never had enough of that around these guys. That's what I want to see. That's what I think the biggest need is. And we can debate to what stratosphere or caliber you want that player, whether it is the Paul George, the Jimmy Butlers, or if it is more in the Kelly Oubre type of ballpark when we're talking about the money and how much that commands. But I do want that archetype of player to be loaded up on this roster.
Dude, that's the same thing. That's on literally the same thing on my notes. Because we do a lot of shows together. But the Sixers have to figure out how to fix the rebounding. They have to figure out how to fix their transition defense. So for me, just like Sean said, I want continued athleticism on the wing. That's where I start. I want a guy with switchability. I want a guy who gets rebounds. I want a guy who plays good transition defense. The Sixers were 6th worst in the league in defensive rebounding percentage, 7th worst in points allowed on the fast break. We all know what Tobias is. And, I love Kelly Oubre so much. I love when he flexes after every single dunk. But let's be honest, he should probably be coming off the bench on a good team. There's a big reason why the Sixers struggled giving up second chance opportunity after second chance opportunity. Kelly Oubre was on the court during those times. And the lack of rebounding, the softness, he's just as much to blame. I think his best role is coming off the bench. The Sixers need youth. The Sixers need heart. The Sixers need hustle from the wings moving forward. And if I were the GM, and we were talking about this before we went live, I would love to see the Sixers explore that number 16 pick with a wing. And luckily for the Sixers, there should be several available in that area. I also am one that thinks Ricky Council next year can average anywhere from 10 to 12 points as a wing with considerable minutes next year. And for me, if the Sixers can bring in a solid two-way wing in that first round, with a Ricky Council, I could be okay there. So for me, it's wing. For Sean, it's wing. For Ryan, it's competent big man. And for Rob, was it like heart mentality, winning mentality?
It was winning mentality, how to win those games in the playoffs.
Yep. Let's get to some comments. Anthony says biggest need is a third score in the playoffs. We're going to talk about our offseason targets very soon. B-ball can't play, and this man is a thief.
Wow.
Come on, you know that pick is getting traded.
Well, listen, that's one
Facts.
And I feel like every year that I'm saying the same things, but like when I look at the NBA draft, most of the guys that are not your top picks don't really see the floor. It's very rare, I think, that they can. And this window has shriveled now, right? The window is no longer wide open. You've got a 2-year period. So if you can, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this when we get into some of our targets here, if you can package these picks to get one of these younger wings that we know can come in and be a perfect fit, you do that and you don't even think twice about it. Like, to me, that's got to be option one. I know what everyone's saying and I get it. Like, if everything else doesn't work out, then yes, that you should be looking to draft a wing. There should be no question. But I think the chances of that pick being traded, even with what Morey said today, are probably a little bit more likely than less likely at this point.
Daryl Morey has to finally put roster construction like at the forefront of his brain this offseason, man. Like, you look at the New York Knicks, like, I still, to this day, think pound for pound, the Sixers are a more talented basketball team, but you cannot deny that they had a more cohesive roster.
Yeah.
Point blank. And
the other,
hold on. You look at like the Nuggets and you look at teams like the Timberwolves. All those teams are so much better built cohesively and with an identity all across the board, top to bottom. And then you look at the Sixers, who consistently bring in old guys that try and fit a role. I want to bring in the young guys. I want to start running the court up and down the court like some of these other teams that and find guys that fit with Maxey and Embiid rather than pigeonhole a guy that's late in his prime. That's just my thought.
Yeah, you hit on the exact word I wanted to bring up there, which is identity. That the Sixers still kind of need to find theirs. That you look at each of these remaining teams, even a team like the Indiana Pacers, you know what they're going to do. They're going to run and gun. They're going to play fast pace. They're going to launch threes. You look at the Knicks, they're going to wear you down. They're going to be gritty, fight for rebounds. Each of these teams know exactly who they are. When you look at the Sixers team, it's a lot of Joel Embiid, go bail us out, man. We need something. Tyrese, go for 46 real quick. We need something. That there isn't this cohesive style or like how they're going to win on a game in and game out standpoint. I think the closest that there truly was to that was during the James Harden and Joel Embiid pairing, where you at least knew that there was a little bit of identity from a pick and roll standpoint and then building sets off that. This offseason, they got to figure out, how is this team going to be built? What is the identity of this team? And then totally lean into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob says the pick's getting traded, 99% chance. If that pick can get you a player like Alex Caruso, you got to do it.
Yep.
Of course, the Bulls think he is untouchable. As Terrence Smith. Oh my God.
I still hate the Bulls. Yeah, Ryan was screaming for a competent big man. The Sixers had the deal done to bring Drummond back here. And I'm telling you, I think that would have made, first of all, I don't think we would have been in the play-in. Because all those games Embiid missed, I think Drummond being in there would have won us a few more games and probably had us in that Cleveland series, which I think the Sixers were heads and shoulders better than both of those teams. But regardless of all that, I hate the Bulls now too. They can go to hell as well. Just like
they have
all
not
these
traded a player since 2021. The Chicago
It's ridiculous,
Bulls, which is just franchise malpractice.
And they've done nothing. It's not like they've been successful.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Rob says the fact that the Bulls did not make a single trade last year is general manager malpractice.
Big time is.
The Sixers are the straw house in the Three Little Pigs. I like that. I get some amazing comments from Sean, and now this comment. That Painter comment was one of my favorites. Sean. That was awesome. That's why we lost continuity. All right. Where do we go? Did I give mine? No. The biggest need. Yeah. Where are we at? Biggest need, right?
Yeah, we
We all
I don't
do.
remember anymore. All right.
Yeah, you said you overlapped with Sean.
All right. That's right. Let's roll on to number 3. What do the Sixers need more? A third star or better role players? Sean, lead us off.
So you can definitely, I see the argument for both here. I'm
Mhm.
leaning more towards the third star, and my reasoning for that being that I think with a better game plan for limiting Joel Embiid during the regular season, that is the best path. And the only way to effectively do that and keep this team's head above water is by having another guy that can be a guy in the games which Joel Embiid's not. Whether that's Paul George, whether that's Jimmy Butler, Lauri Markkanen, and Mikal Bridges, having a guy that can be the running mate with Tyrese Maxey on games in which Joel Embiid's not there, I think is the best route for success for this franchise. So I do lean towards the third star conversation here.
Yeah. Third star for Sean. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, man, it's tough because I felt myself going both ways a lot with this. You know, and before Dives throws me off of the show, listen, there's only one older guy that I would even consider out of all the names that you're hearing, right? And it's a guy over my shoulder. And there's only one reason why. Yes, he's 39, but his body and the way he takes care of his body,
unreal,
puts him into the mid to early 30s probably when it comes to longevity and ability. And is he the LeBron of 10 years ago? No, but LeBron still has talent. And if you put him on a team with a Tyrese Maxey and the Joel Embiid, I think it could work. I really do. Now, a lot has to happen for that, right? He has to opt out and the Lakers not sign him. But that would be the only older star. But outside of that, I'm kind of leaning with Sean. There are some younger stars that I think are prime pieces to put here with Maxey and Joel Embiid. And look, now hopefully it's not as long as this year, but you're not going to have Joel every game of a regular season. And there's going to be stretches where you don't have him. And you're going to need a guy to go with Maxey to go out and win you basketball games. Because Maxey, maybe someday he can do it on his own, but he's not that guy yet. So getting one of these other, and like we've all said, I think it's at the wing position where they need this guy. They need whoever's replacing Tobias Harris to be worth the money we paid Tobias Harris, if that makes sense. So as much as I say, yeah, let's build up, let's do what the Knicks did. And I love the idea of the third quote unquote star. And outside of one guy, I'd want it to be a younger star at that.
Ryan.
Yeah, for me, it is a close call, but you look at how this team was last year without Embiid, and it was Maxey and the role players, and we all admitted that this was probably the best group of role players that he had, and they looked awful. They couldn't do, they couldn't get wins. They couldn't do. Maxey needed help, and again, I understand he's still young, and another year in the league. Obviously, we're watching him blossom, in front of our eyes. So that'll certainly be mitigated slightly, but I really do think that he needs some help as well. And again, on the off nights of Embiid, if he happens to go down for a little bit of a stretch or whatever the case is, or even again giving Maxey a little bit of a break, having two guys to go out there and along with some competent depth pieces, some role players, should be enough to get you some wins. So I think that's where we need to focus on is getting this guy that can come in and average 20 and if need be, throw up a 30 spot when called upon.
I disagree.
There's always got to be one guy that's wrong. It's okay.
Always one. It's always this guy.
I'm used to being wrong. So for me, I want role players. And why? I'm tired of star hunting, man. It's been exhausting. And kind of Sean alluded to it at the start of the show. I think the Sixers need to focus on building this Sixers roster around Tyrese Maxey and make him the number one option, not Joel Embiid. And Sean said it, like when Joel Embiid went to the bench, that offense went down the toilet bowl. There was a lot of ball watching. There was a lot of dribbling, dribble, like Tobias Harris, classical offense where no one wants to shoot the basketball and they throw up a terrible low percentage shot with seconds remaining. It was awful. Fixing the Sixers bench with guys that fit Maxey is what I'm looking at. In fact, I'll say something crazy. I think there's a Sixers verse where Tyrese Maxey by the end of next Christmas is the best Sixers basketball player. I think he's that ascending, and I think he's a player that after like all right, if Tyrese Maxey was a free agent this offseason, he would be without a doubt probably our biggest target, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't want to put any limits on how good this guy can be. I think Joel is still extremely good here. Like we're talking about a top 3 player in the league, no doubt about it. So I'm with you. He's still gonna be 24 too, Maxey. I still think we got a couple years for this.
My point is that like the Sixers offense was so clueless with Maxey on the floor and Embiid on the bench. Like that should be completely turned upside down. And I want Maxey to be the focal point with less focus on Embiid with his scoring, more focus on his rebounding and defense. Like, and we said this for months before last season started. We should have seen this. And we didn't. Like his usage percentage for Embiid was through the roof. But for me, I honestly, I would go the draft route. I would go finding young role players that can fit better as a more cohesive roster around Maxey. That's where I would go because I don't really see a lot of avenues for the Sixers becoming instant contenders.
So question then: what do you trust Morey to do more? Go out and get that third star, or go out and try and find 3 or 4 guys that may or may not fit with Maxey?
I don't have a lot of trust in Morey to begin with.
Regardless.
So that's a whole other a loaded question.
I mean, if you go out,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you go your role though, you cannot go draft because it's not that you don't have time. You just look. I know that as a fan base, we're always going to be here, but Embiid's window is running out. If you can mortgage the future to get the pieces in here to go win in the next 2 years, which let's face it, it is possible, right? With Maxey and Embiid, that is possible. I know what happened this year. I know how pissed off we are. But if we can distance ourselves from that emotion, this team very quickly could become a title contender again. But if you start hoping on draft picks in the mid to late teens to hit, it's not. It's just not.
Miami Heat did it. Why can't the Sixers do it?
Because Miami Heat
players coming out of nowhere.
Riley was drafted the right way. When was outside of Tyrese Maxey? The Sixers cannot draft. It's been since the beginning of time. I mean, this has been going on. Just think of it. They took Larry Hughes over Paul Pierce. They've done this for years. This is not anything new. So I am not going to count on a 76ers franchise to draft me a guy in the mid to late teens and then in the second round to be the perfect role pieces, by the way, in year one. And then say, well, there's another year of Joel, so I guess we got to wait. Like, I just can't do it anymore. I'm mortgaging the hell out of the future right now. I'll tell you that.
I don't know. Yeah. Like, I wholeheartedly know where you're coming from, but, like, long-term wise, I just don't know if that's in the best interest.
Go ahead, John.
The other factor I think to keep in mind with these, like, say you take Jared McCain at 16, when you get to the trade deadline, like those type of guys are things that you can flip. Like say your desired piece is not there right now. That taking a guy that, has a shelf life, has high hopes, has a little bit of attention around the NBA. That's why a guy like Ricky Council, the force important. Like, yes, he might be able to grow into a productive role player, and I'm still pretty optimistic about that. But he's also now a little sweetener that you can throw into a deal if that moves the meter for anybody. And that can be valuable because the Sixers have been so short for assets in past years that I do think that's something to keep in mind, or another way to look at it.
Phil says, Jeremy Grant, if you strike out on other players. Any thoughts on Jeremy Grant?
As if you strike out, but I'm not giving him a ton of money. I'm not giving him a max deal.
Harris, Tobias Harris, to me.
So like if I'm striking out, I'm not overpaying on guys like Jeremy Grant. Sean, do you know what route I'm doing? And this might be an unpopular opinion. I'm going to look at what teams are sellers and look to sell the cap for assets. Yes. I'm talking about Ben freaking Simmons. Could you imagine if they bring back Ben Simmons and all of a sudden you get a lot of draft picks with that? And now we're talking maybe you have a treasure chest to make a move for a Lauri Markkanen, who we're going to be talking about soon, or you have 5 first-round draft picks and things like that. So that's probably my like plan B is to if we miss out on the top stars, which will be what Daryl Morey does. Plan B for me is actually finding those teams that kind of have guys on expiring deals and take that cap and also take more assets.
What if you go directly to Brooklyn right now and say, all right, so one for you, one for us here. We take on Ben Simmons, but you got to also give us Mikal Bridges.
Yep.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, absolutely. That's worth it for sure.
Yeah.
And then I would buy the hell out of Ben Simmons.
I honestly
After
blacked
seeing
out.
his outfit at the Met Gala, I want nothing to do with that loser here. So he gets bought out instantly.
All right. Let's go to some comments real quick. They're flowing in, guys. Thank you for watching. Guys, hit that like button if you want Mikal Bridges in Philadelphia. No LaFraud says, Todd.
Stop it, man. You people are out of you. Everyone in this town, except for maybe Dives, everyone in this town, if they saw LeBron in a Sixers jersey, would have some level of excitement. And if you say you wouldn't, you're freaking lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself. Let's just be real here. It's LeBron freaking James. He's one of the top, in my opinion, top 2 players of all time in this league. Okay.
Yeah.
He likes Max.
I even go like one step further. So, for example, just hear me out. If the Sixers, not Sixers, if the Lakers were to find that LeBron goes elsewhere, what do they do with Anthony Davis? What's the plan then? Like, maybe could that be then a trade target?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the plan in LA was for the power balance to shift where AD is the 1A and LeBron's the 1B, and to call a spade, Anthony Davis has been capable of carrying that torch from both a on-court standpoint and a health standpoint. Yeah. AD was very good this year, so I give him a little bit of credit for it, but I think that was the plan in LeBron's head, and Anthony Davis hasn't quite been capable of that, which is why they're kind of in the situation that they are in.
Yeah.
Rob says, only realistic guys under 30 I see are Brandon Ingram. I'm not a big Brandon Ingram fan. Way too much mid-range. Does not shoot a lot of threes. Kind of soft. DeJounte Murray, Zach LaVine, any of those guys, true stars. Lauri seems realistic. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I mean, Mikal and Lauri definitely seem less realistic, but for sure at the top of my list. I mean, I love both those guys. Lauri specifically, I particularly love. I am interested in DeJounte Murray a little bit, that I could see a pairing with him and Tyrese Maxey working. I like the idea of another ball handler. He's pretty solid defensively. He's led the league in steals before. And it does seem like they want to break up the Trae Young and Murray tandem. So that is a name that intrigues me. I'm pretty out on both LaVine and Ingram for sure. I'm with you on Ingram being a guy that he's such a theoretical basketball player to me, and he's not bad by any means, but I just don't think he's going to grow into anything more than he is. I like that he's 27, so that's a little appealing, but I don't see him getting much better than he currently is.
I think he averaged like 3.1 3-point attempts per game. That's just
he was really down this year. I don't know what happened.
Shooting is getting worse and worse.
Yeah, right. He shot 6.8 per game 3 seasons ago, I believe it was. Which like that, I'm in on if we can get there. But he's very DeMar DeRozan like, but not quite as like killer instinct as DeMar.
Yeah, absolutely agree. All right, let's keep them coming. True stars are Paul George, LeBron, and Jimmy Butler. DeRozan would be an option. You need guys. You need depth with Joel Embiid. You get an injury-prone player like PG, and then you're SOL with minimum players. They need solid backup for Embiid. Build around Maxey. Gracie agrees with me. Embiid is cooked in 2 years or less. I agree with that. Like we're probably like the window for Embiid is probably 3 maximum. Boston is better. Knicks are better. Cleveland, Indiana, Magic are all getting better. Hey, Sean, no Butler from Pat Riley. Give Heat, Maxey, or no, that's not going to happen. Watching TJ McConnell step up in the playoffs, man.
Stop. Let's all be revisionist historians here today and say, oh, I can't believe the Sixers let TJ McConnell walk for nothing. Really, guys? Really?
TJ, man.
like I love what TJ's doing, and I love TJ McConnell, but I'm not going to go back and say, you see, we lost TJ McConnell. This isn't like Jimmy Butler leaving and then going to Miami and going to the finals twice. It's still TJ freaking McConnell.
Got to give the Heat something for Butler. You ain't got nothing. Come on. I don't
I'm not
want to get
in for Butler.
from the old folks home like Paul George, Butler, or LeBron. I'm right there with you, Andrew.
If LeBron's in the old folks home, he's in better shape than every single one of the people outside of the old folks home. He's in better shape than the orderlies in the old folks home.
Look how easily the Knicks became relevant. Shaking my head. They have excellent roster construction, excellent role players, and that dude DiVincenzo and Hart were two guys. Now I know Hart never got out of the building after he was traded there last year, but going in the last offseason, they were two targets of mine for the Sixers. DiVincenzo specifically, I thought would have played a really, really nice role, and they just never even looked at him. Like it was never even crossed their minds, it seems, which was boggled my mind because all they said was they wanted 3-point shooters to put around Embiid. God, you talk about toughness. There's the toughness you need here. Yeah, we all called out Brunson so many times with the foul baiting, but my God, he's a dog.
My God.
If the Sixers stars had an eighth of that toughness and grit and fight and heart, we would have a different conversation these last 3 years. So many props to Jalen Brunson, man. Brandon Ingram's a meaner Tobias.
I don't know if he is.
Minnesota struck gold with Anthony.
For sure.
That guy's a dog, man.
He's
first overall pick. Yeah, he's unbelievable. But yeah, also
awesome.
we don't have one of those luxury number one overall picks to kind of get one of
You know
those
what was
guys.
funny though? Wasn't that the draft where everybody wasn't sure about anyone? Like even Ant Edwards was like they were questioned. They said that was like the worst draft of all time.
They questioned his love for the game.
Yeah, and my God, I don't know if there's anyone in the league that loves it more than him.
Yeah.
All right, let's roll on here. Our last question of the evening. This is the first show we are targeting Sixers offseason targets. So obviously we're shooting for the moon here. This is pretty much our Mount Rushmore, I think. And then we'll kind of go as the weeks progress here until free agency begins. But let's roll on with our favorite offseason targets. Sign or trade or sign and trade. Could be either or. Rob, lead us off.
All right. It's not the guy over my shoulder because at this point, we don't even know if he's available. So I didn't go there today. That will come later in the offseason. Don't you worry. But, okay, we've already mentioned this name. And if the Sixers want to get to the next level, I believe they have to right a wrong of the past. Okay. And that wrong would be the trading of Mikal Bridges on draft night, and to not only trade for, but when I talk about mortgaging the future, I believe, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, I read somewhere that they have 4 or 5 tradable, I think like 4 tradable first round picks now.
Yep.
I'd send every freaking one of them. I'd say, hey, Brooklyn, you're rebuilding. You need these picks. Take all 4 of them. Take a couple seconds if you want. I don't give a damn. I will send them all to bring Mikal Bridges here because, in my opinion, there may not be a more perfect fit next to Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid than this guy. And I know people are going to say, yeah, well, look at him with the Nets. No, he's not going to be the guy. He's going to struggle if he has to be the only guy. But you throw him on the floor with Tyrese Maxey the way he scores, with Joel Embiid the way he scores, and then, oh, by the way, you now have a defensive wing for the first time maybe since we started this. You know, think about it. Every year we talk, how they going to match up against Boston, how they going to cover Tatum, how they going to cover Brown. Well, here it is. And so to me, like it's probably not, but I would be willing to part with literally every draft asset I have to get Bridges to come home where he should have been years ago. So to me, he is the top target, and I would literally do anything outside of trade Embiid and Maxey to get him here.
So like my 1A is Sean's, my 1B is Rob's. Mikal would be just an incredible fit, as we all know. Anybody have any other thoughts on Mikal?
Yeah, I would love it. And he's also just being straight up wasted in Brooklyn, man. Like it's sad to me to watch him just kind of try and drag this team, look like a number one option, which he in reality, we all know he's not, to try and just push this team of not that much talent around him. So I think they would be doing him a favor to trade him out of there, to be perfectly honest. I know franchises don't think like that they're obviously wanting the bottom line, but if you need 4 first-round picks to make yourself feel good about making everybody happy, I don't see why you shouldn't, but I ultimately don't think the likelihood is very high, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to Sean. Who is your offseason target?
Yeah, as much as Mikal is up there, I do have one guy above him. Another guy I don't think is incredibly likely, but it's Lauri Markkanen here, a guy who's 26 years old, a real deal all-star. Shout out to Dives for the graphic here. 23.2 points, 8.2 rebounds. The 8.0 three-point attempts is so intriguing to me at a 39.9% rate. What makes that so appealing to me is, number one, the age, that you're now kind of bridging the gap between Embiid and Maxey, that this is a guy who can carry the window, extend it a little longer, that I do think there's a world where you can win with Lauri Markkanen and Tyrese Maxey as your 1 and 2 in the post-Joel Embiid era. And in the meantime, this is your first true stretch four that you've had to surround Joel Embiid with, that you can play him as the guy who is what we hope Tobias Harris could be, who's a better rebounder than Tobias is. And then in the non-Embiid minutes, you can play some 5-out basketball with Lauri Markkanen at the 5. He's real deal 7 feet tall. He's just wasting away out there in Utah as well. So I'd be all over Lauri Markkanen and in the exact same boat, that I would give up whatever draft capital is necessary to that. If that means the 4 or 5, pour it into him, I would feel much more comfortable. And by the way, on the final season of his contract, I do think there's a real world where Utah is kind of looking at that as, is our timeline a little bit different from this guy? They're still very much rebuilding. That if you're nervous about what that contract's going to look like, make it a Philadelphia problem. That I would be more than happy to give him a notable extension, far more than the Paul Georges and Jimmy Butlers of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Danny Ainge is the biggest problem. That's the biggest hurdle, of course.
Right.
But he's like Mikal. Like, he's one of those dudes. They bring in Lauri Markkanen next to Joel Embiid. I am all period with the 2025 Sixers, period. Like that would be such an exciting move.
Yeah, I want it to happen more than anything. Again, I don't think it's super high likelihood. Danny Ainge for sure the biggest hurdle in that, but throw whatever it takes, whatever draft capital, and I seriously think that's my by far dream 1A target.
Yeah, I agree. We've got some like Knicks fans or Heat fans in the chat. I'm not even going to give them this a second. Andrew,
nice season, Miami.
My faith in Morey fixing this can't get any lower, so I don't see it getting fixed. Seems like the Sixers.
I'm telling you, Andrew Bagley, someone needs to check on him, because I feel like I can picture him in a dark room in the corner typing to Andrew. It's going to be okay, man. It's going to be okay. We are here for you, and we are going to get through this together. I promise you, sir. It's okay.
Gracie said, seems like the Sixers snubbed all the Nova players, better role players. Look at all the Knicks, for God's sake. If our management was not so dumb, those Nova kids should still be playing in Philly.
They're winners.
I remember vividly. I don't know if you were on that pod, Sean, but talking with Tiago about Deuce McBride and how like he would be pitch perfect in Philadelphia. And pick him. So yeah.
Yeah, I love Deuce since the West Virginia days, so same here. I'm not as surprised as I think a lot of people were to see him step up on that big stage. New York's done an awesome job through the draft and just building their team the way they have. They've leaned into their identity, all these things that the Sixers have failed to do. So you do have to tip your hat to an extent, but it doesn't make it much more swallowable from a Philadelphia standpoint.
Nets screwed up by not trading Mikal last year for Jalen Green and multiple firsts. Does Brooklyn really believe that they can build around Mikal Bridges? I don't know.
That's the thing. Like, I don't know why they would sit there and think that they can at this point. Like, you just saw a full season. You know, you almost wish Mikal Bridges wasn't such a good kid and would ask out. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's just not his MO. That's just not the type of kid he is. But my God, man, Sean said it best. You just feel for it. He is going to waste away there. Unless they allow him to go somewhere else. And it's really, really a shame. It's a shame.
We've got a couple of Lauri Markkanen fans. He's the guy. Trade 4 firsts for Lauri. No matter what the Sixers do, they aren't going past the second round. And Mr. Rudy Poo's in the house. What's going on, man? Saying number one priority, pry away a center, Isaiah Hartenstein, I would imagine, whatever one they don't resign. Hartenstein's
I could never. I don't know if I could.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just don't know if I could ever root for Isaiah Hartenstein.
Why?
There's just no. I don't know. I
like
don't
him.
know.
I
Maybe
think it's
because
good.
maybe because he looks like Frankenstein. I no. I can't. He's just a hate the face guy. Granted, if he put on a Sixers uniform, I'm sure I'd find a way. But I really do like look at his face and go, it's like Step Brothers. It's like I just want to punch his face. I don't know why. I just want to punch it every time I see it. And it's something that I got to try and work on, I guess. Yeah.
Ryan, who was your dude?
Oh man, that's too good. I went with Pascal Siakam.
Interesting.
Formerly of Toronto, now currently with the Indiana Pacers. He's a guy that's going to give you 21, 22, 8 boards, 3-4 assists. And honestly, he shoots, pretty decent range from 3. I think this year he was just under 39 while with the Pacers. That's again, I think I've always kind of liked the idea of getting a power forward or somebody to play the 4 that can shoot the ball, can score, can be somebody that can carry a load, and I think that's Pascal Siakam. Honestly, I think he would be somebody who I could see working really well with Maxey, and honestly, I could see really working well with Embiid as well, with the both of them out on the floor if Maxey's taking a rest. So. Listen, I love the guys that you have selected so far. I just kind of went a little bit of a different way here, but I think Pascal Siakam is kind of one of those realistic guys. Get him back with Nick Nurse, I just think it could be a good reunion there for the Sixers.
Any thoughts on Pascal Siakam?
I would be pretty surprised if the Pacers don't hand him a max contract. He's not a guy that I see becoming available. I don't think they would have traded for him if that wasn't the case. I haven't been the biggest Pascal guy in the world. I have in my more heated moments called him Tobias Harris with a permanent green light as far as the way that he plays. But then again, if Tobias Harris was a willing permanent green light guy, I might be talking about him a little differently right now. So I don't know if I don't mind it from the defensive standpoint. I think I could see that he fits this archetype of, versatile athletic wings that we're kind of talking about. He's a little more traditional of a forward. So I'm not totally against it. I would be open to it if the possibility arose, but not probably the top guy on my list.
Can we effectively cross out OG Anunoby back with the Knicks and then Pascal Siakam with the Pacers, right? I think
so, yeah.
I think at this point, probably. And it's a shame. I think Pascal would be interesting. You have the Nurse connection. You have the Joel Embiid connection, right? I mean, they're so there's a lot of those things, but I can't imagine Indiana gets him, partners him up with Halliburton, and then says, all right, have a good one. Thanks a lot for the run. I can't see that taking place. But if it did, he would absolutely be a guy I would at least, throw in the mix and consider for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Grayson says Rob's going to be the biggest Isaiah Hartenstein fan when he gets
I'll
here.
buy his jersey.
He is a good player, man. He's turned himself into a good player. I like him with the Clippers too. Yeah.
Andrew says it's pathetic that Embiid let him take his lunch money. Hartenstein, Knicks would be crazy to give our OG $40 million a year. Where you got with that shot? 3 months ago, I'm right on the same pace with you, Rob. But now, looking at how much of a need that is, it's just what it is. And
it's what the market tells you. The market's going to tell you what you have to pay these guys. And the NBA market's out of control.
That's what scared me about making the trade for OG in the first place is you're doing what the Sixers did with Tobias is regardless of how this plays out, you're basically making this decision right now to pay him. And if we're being real here, while OG was perfectly fine in that series, he was less important than DiVincenzo, less important than Josh Hart, certainly less important than Jalen Brunson. So, like, you are pigeonholing yourself to an extent here. I think they have to do it. There's pretty much no doubt in my mind that they will, but I don't feel great about signing that check if I am the New York Knicks.
Now, doesn't OG have a player option? I thought he had the player option where Siakam was a true free agent.
Let me fact check myself.
Because if that's the case, no offense, but like I would assume that the likelihood that our best shot as far as Siakam goes is, does he really want to play in Indiana?
Yeah, $19.9 million player option for OG.
Yeah,
I would expect he opts out and tries to get paid.
Well, yeah, that for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, interesting.
Todd says, "Do we have enough capital to get Mikal Bridges and marketing?"
Yeah, I think if he's made available, yes. I think if either one is made available, that very few teams have the draft capital that the Sixers could offer. I think that was one of the reasons why when they made the James Harden trade, they held out and ended up taking more picks back, or why they started trading guys that we were kind of thinking like, hey, you're in the middle of a run. Why are you trading this guy? Why are you trading that guy? Because they've stocked. If Daryl Morey's done one good, is he stockpiled picks. I mean, they're back to a point where they now have assets that they can move if somebody becomes available. And unfortunately, we just got to, we're going to have to sit here and wait to see who it is that becomes available, and hope that he doesn't spend too much assets on one of the older guys that you would have to trade for.
Yep. I know you guys are talking off season. Do you think we had a chance against the Pacers? I feel like we would have been guessed. That was my biggest concern, was Joel Embiid in a track meet.
Yeah, it would have been hard. It would have been tough.
Sure.
Yeah, I still think they ultimately would have beat the Pacers. I think the Knicks will too, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I mean, they're not going to sweep by any means. That the Pacers will win a couple games. That it really is a different story to be aware how much fast break they want to run, how up and down they are, and completely different when you're actually playing in it. That there is an up. Like the Bucks just straight up looked too old and slow, and like there is a real chance that the Sixers would have been thrown in that same boat if that was the matchup.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable series between the Knicks and the Sixers, man. That was just.
It really was. Like, people are not going to remember that. But every single game was down to the final couple of minutes for the. Yeah. I mean, outside of the Sixers game 3 win, really, which it was still a game up till the final 5, and then the Sixers kind of stretched it. But it was, and I think that's when I walked away last Thursday night, I kind of sat back and I said, we just watched 6 really good basketball games.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that they were played cleanly all the time, but these two teams were evenly matched. And, the tougher team won. I mean, at the end of the day, the tougher team won out.
Yeah, it's one of those series that I hope we get a rematch next playoffs. Like that like the NBA doesn't have a lot of rivalries anymore. Like I hope this is the start of something.
Yeah,
I think it is too. I definitely think it is. Like they got to have another matchup. It just feels like it is destined to happen, and I really think that was the best series of the entire playoffs so far. Obviously, still something to be played, but I think that takes the cake at this point.
Yep. Yeah. Rob says, I watched the series. OG is a solid role player. Will never be an all-star. OG will leave and be a huge disappointment. The Phillies are the best chance we got in the city. Ryan points to his hat. DiVincenzo just might have hit the winner. Oh, wow.
I have it pulled up to the side right now. Pascal hit a 2-pointer to push it within 1. The Knicks are getting the referee calls once again. They called a kickball in Indiana, which just straight up wasn't.
Oh, God, here we go.
Yeah.
Well, then the Knicks lose
the
a bounce?
and they went Boston and New York. There's no doubt. Which will be an amazing series.
Do you know that the NHL and NBA playoffs could both have conference finals of New York versus Boston? Is there any bigger nightmare in the city of Philadelphia than that outcome? I seriously, like, I can't. This is where I'm a sicko. I can't turn on the Knicks Pacer series. I can't turn it on and watch it because I'm going to watch the Knicks, and the whole time I'm just going to feel dejected, and I won't watch another. I don't think I can watch the NBA playoffs at this point outside of Ann Edwards. I will watch Anthony Edwards every day. If I can, but outside, it's so sad. So sad.
Rob, it's going to be okay.
It's not. I'm going into a dark room.
Rob, we are here for you. That's what this is for.
You and Andrew are gonna be sitting there together.
All right. Let's go into my pretty much not number one target, but a guy that might be the more realistic targets of the group, and that's Malik Monk. He just turned 26. His ability to score and pass would add another dimension to the Sixers backcourt, which they currently lack. The surface stats don't really wow you, as you see there on the screen, but yeah, he only shot 35% from deep. But you look at kind of inside the numbers, with a minimum of 6 drives per game, Malik Monk posted the highest assist rate on drives within the entire NBA. We all know the Sixers shooting was a weakness at times, and so was its lack of backcourt facilitation. I think Monk would address the latter really well compared to a lot of other free agents. This is one of those guys that can really give you a spark off the bench. Among league leaders, Monk led all NBA reserves in the following categories: games with 5+ assists, he had 45; games with 10+ points and 5 assists, 34; games with 15 or more points, 38; games with 20+ points, 25; total points scored over 1,100, and total assists 370. He's also very solid in transition, 1.22 points per possession, 69th percentile. One of the biggest reasons the Sixers lost to the Knicks, as Rob alluded, was the lack of bench production and failing to stay afloat offensively when Embiid was not on the court. You want playmaking, you want instant offense off the bench. Malik Monk's your guy. So I know there's a lot of talk about him going back to the Kings or going to the Magic. Any thoughts on Malik Monk?
Yeah, I love Malik Monk. I'm curious what his kind of outlook is for where he wants his career to go. He's had a bit of like a strange start to his career. That he went to Kentucky. He was the backcourt partner with De'Aaron Fox, who I absolutely loved that team. I was a huge Malik Monk guy going into that season and expected him to be like a number one pick kind of conversation. He underwhelmed a little. Then he went to the Hornets and did not play well to the start of his career. Got suspended for a little drug situation that he had like a kind of a checkered path through the original. And then he's really found his stride in recent years. I think he got robbed of 6th man of the year this season, to be perfectly honest. I think he deserved it. He definitely has the juice with the ball in his hands. He can play make. He can get red hot. He's had games where he scored 35, 40 points off the bench, which is awesome. If he desires to take that next step into a starting guard in this league, which I could see being the case, this is a perfect home for him. I think he fits a little closer to that like role player plus type player than I see him ever evolving to like an all-star type talent. But I do think that he would be another guy that you can rely on for offense in the non-Embiid nights. So I absolutely would be open to Malik Monk.
Yeah, and I don't know how effective it would be in the playoffs to have him and Maxey on the court, but it would allow Maxey to play a little more off ball too.
Yeah, defense is my only concern, but yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt this, but I just turned on to literally watch the refs attempt to steal another game.
A moving screen on Miles Turner to
They
basically
call a moving screen with 12 seconds on Miles Turner when, man, it was marginal at best, and Dante DiVincenzo acted like he was shot in the leg and fell over.
Joel Embiid just tweeted LOL.
And then wasn't he the one who liked the tweet of the Trae Young rule?
Yep.
And then they called a away from the ball foul on the inbounds, so now they got a foul shot and the ball. This is unbelievable. I'm glad we're not in the second round anymore. I'm happy.
There we go. See, we did it, Ryan. He's in a better place now.
There you go.
Yeah, and now I have to turn the game off so that I don't get more angry. Unbelievable. That was the worst last 12-second call. Well, maybe not the worst. We saw that in game 2, but unbelievable.
All right. That essentially wraps up our questions for the evening. It was fun talking hoops. I'll throw it to you, Ryan. Final thoughts, Sixers off season. Time's yours.
Yeah, listen, this is going to be a very fun offseason. It's going to be a pretty pivotal offseason. It's going to, I think, with what Dodge was saying, it's going to really depend on how they see the future of this team. Are they looking at this as Joel's team, or are they going to be looking at this as Maxi's team? And I think their moves are gonna show which is which. Either way, they do have a small window if they want to, go after this thing, because I still think, with those two, you have a shot, and they just need to put the right pieces. So it'll be fun. Let's hope Daryl Morey pulls something out of his ass, because we're gonna need it. So.
All right. Where can we find you, Ryan?
We're throughout all over EOP. Mondays, I'll be here at 9:00. Normally, football smack talk show Mondays at 6. Birds of the Round Table tomorrow, every Tuesday at 8. And then I'm here and there.
Oh man. What about you, Rob? Final thoughts, plugs.
Final thoughts is Daryl Morey's going to attempt to get a star. I think we can analyze and break this down any way we want. I think at the end of the day, that's Daryl Morey's plan. And we should be happy, because it's not going to be James Harden. He's not obsessed with James Harden anymore. So maybe it's somebody else. We'll see what happens. But it's going to be entertaining. I won't say fun yet, because I have a feeling we're going to have some stressful moments during this offseason trying to figure out what is going on. And then us, if they don't make a move in the first 5 minutes of free agency, we're going to say the sky's falling and he's not going to do anything, and we're going to only play with 3 guys all year. But so we'll see. I mean, and we'll talk about it here probably a lot. I mean, I think there's a lot to discuss, a lot to talk about. I'm at the point now with the NBA season where I want the finals over so we can move on into the offseason and go from there. As far as where you can find me at Philly_madness. I just talked to our guy Big Al today. PSD is coming. Okay. Philadelphia sports disorder with me, your doctor, the one that's going to take you through this, is coming. All right. It'll be a weekly quick hitter show where we just talk about the topics, but we're not going to talk about it like the geniuses that I'm surrounded by now that actually like focus on stuff and analytics and breakdown tape. We're going to talk about it like the passionate fans we are, who can be jackasses sometimes. And guess what? I'm going to be a jackass a lot. I'm just going to put that shit out there now. Like, I am going to be a jackass, and hopefully you tune in and enjoy it, but we'll talk through it. It'll be our moment of Zen in a very different way than any Zen you've ever been a part of.
Love it.
Awesome. All right. A lot of people are saying the refs clearly robbed the Pacers in the chat. Knicks are beyond pathetic. I can't. Seriously, can't watch players blatantly flop.
There's like 4 different calls in the last 2 minutes again. They called a kickball on the Pacers, which straight up wasn't, that it got poked out with a hand. I think it was Andrew Nembhard there. They had a challenge one, which Halliburton poked out clean, was called a foul, and then they did win the challenge back on that one. And the moving screen was the one that takes the cake there.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch that.
Getting in the sticks with Knicks fans for the 2nd consecutive round on Twitter is what that means for me.
Last question. Timeline on Morey's job security. This is it. He's got this offseason. That's it for me.
Yeah, I think this is kind of my mindset, is this is the last Joel Embiid core that I think you have to. Joel spoke about continuity. It's been a theme with this, that you have to find whatever that means, like a 2 to 3 years with whatever the outcome of this offseason is. So these are the guys for that. Whatever that equates to is to be determined, but this is the year that everything will be judged on for sure.
Yep. Kane says watching that game, Sixers got to get more young, more athletic, no more old, unathletic players. Preach. Amen, Kane. Yeah. Sean, final thoughts, plugs.
Yeah, I hope there's no more refereeing, enjoying the beautiful sport of basketball, because it's been way too much of that lately. So send that good vibes out into the universe. But appreciate you guys letting me chop it up tonight. As far as for me, you can follow me on Twitter at Sean_Bernard1. You can check out my work on PickSwap Media, Sixers Digest, and Fox Sports The Gambler. Just dropped a little kind of takeaways video on Morey's presser on Sixers Digest. You can check that out. And then, looking forward to some more offseason content. This is kind of our busy time of year, despite there being no hoops.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're leading up to the NBA draft. I put out 2 scouting reports on Devin Carter and Dalton Connect. I'm really just going to focus on some fits for the Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA draft. I'm working on Jared McCain, and I've got another one on Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn's like a Thibault. He's really fun to watch. Elite defensive prospect, and Jared McCain is awesome. Yeah, great. Yeah.
Dives, how many Blue Coats games are you going to go to when Bronny James Jr. is on there while his father's playing for the Sixers?
All right. Final question of the night. I know we're over an hour. I'm sorry. But would you sacrifice a first-round pick in order to get LeBron James in Philadelphia?
Yes.
I would. I would do it, and I wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
I told you I was mortgaging the future. If I have to draft his son and have him come up to the team a few times a week and then play for the Blue Coats, come on down, Bronny. Come on, buddy.
Seriously.
I'll let them live in my house. They can both live in my house if they want to. I don't care. I don't care.
That's a reality show.
I think they can afford some rent though. That family there.
I know. I need the. That's the whole thing. I need the rent, Sean, and I'm trying to get it. So.
Why you trying to mess them up?
Vincent says Sixers were clearly not used to playing together in that series. I've agreed. Tristan DeSilva. Yep. Those guys are on my list.
Yeah.
Yep. I will be covering those two guys. Ryan Dunn is an amazing rebounder and cannot shoot for his life. Yeah, he might be worse than Thibault offensively.
Wow.
And then, all right, guys. Thank you everyone for watching. One last time. He is Ryan Reese at Philly Sports PSA on X. He is Rob Lange at Philly_Madness. Be sure to check out PSD coming soon, and then Sean_Bernard1, Pick Swap Media, Sixers Digest. Check out all of his amazing work at Fox Sports The Gambler. You don't just do Saturdays anymore. Like you're like all over there. Correct?
Yeah, I was on today. It kind of rotates. Saturday is my stable, although I'll be out for this Saturday. But yeah, kind of throughout the week, usually 3 to 4 times I'm on with Sean Brace. So yeah, somewhere between 3 and 6, you can usually hear me.
Awesome, guys. We'll continue to do these Sixers off-season targets as the weeks progress. Party on Broad again. Mondays at 9:00. We'll see you tomorrow night for Birds of the Round Table, doing our early 53-man roster projection show. Should be a good one. We'll see you then. For Ryan, for Rob, for Sean, for myself, thank you everyone for watching. Stay awesome.